Yeah, so I was trying to run the hotspot from the phone, but it just wasn't working.
Ah, it happens.
Yeah, one of these days I'll get a Wi-Fi extender that I'll reach out there, but right now
It's all right.
it's like most of the time I just like using my phone for music and stuff through the speakers and all that. So it's like it's fine for or even most of the time it's fine if I'm watching like a video or something, but
Mm,
sometimes it's a little weird. It's like goes on in and out.
yeah.
That's my dog,
Hey, pup.
Max.
Nice.
Oh, you've been outside. What are you doing?
Oh, that's cute. All right.
Yeah.
Shit. Let's just we're gonna jump right into it. I'll do I'm gonna do introduction, bring you in. Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Rated G. I'm your host, G Terado. If you are new here, welcome to the show. This is an art podcast where I sit down with local artists and sometimes artists from other parts of the world, and we simply sit down and have honest discussions and conversations revolving all things art, creativity, and other aspects in life. So if you enjoy this content, please be sure to hit follow, subscribe, ring that notification bell. That way you can keep up with all of the current uploads. And be sure to check out the show notes. That way you can follow the links if you'd want to continue to follow myself or the featured guests and just continue to follow their journey. And and those that are coming back to the show, welcome back and thank you for your continued support. Now, my guest today is actually was the first guest ever on the podcast, and I honestly don't know why it took this long to bring him back, but you know what, it kind of makes it even more special, perhaps a resurrection of the one and only baby Jesus, George Chiavelli. So please, everyone that's tuning in, please welcome back my friend George Chiavelli.
Thank you so much. That's funny. That's funny. I can't believe that was the first one.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
How
almost three
was that?
years.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It had to be right around the time I think when I first moved in here was about when I came to your old apartment.
Yeah, that and uh like literally months before COVID dropped.
Yeah, that's accurate.
I mean, I mean, yeah, I think it's been 3 years. It was around this time when I started podcasting. So it's fucking wild. And it was when your buddy Mike Hadley, shout out to Mike, when he came on. I mean, we met through you, and we are kind of just chatting before starting to record. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta fucking have George back. Like he was the first one to make an appearance. So yeah, man.
uh,
Oops.
it's good to be back. Good to be back, man.
Yeah, virtually.
Yeah, yes, virtually this time. The
And
distance between grown a little bit since the last time we sat down together.
I know, and time fucking flies, man.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit. I was having this conversation, right? I think it was my last guess. I was like, man, time is just is an illusion. It truly is. And it's only real when you actually focus on it, once you put a scope on it. And it's just wild. But yeah, man, bring me to speed. What have you been up to since I mean, when we did the podcast, that wasn't the last time we saw each other, right? I think we did, like, didn't we do one more group art show together, or was that all
Um,
before the pod?
I think that was all before because if you're
Oh,
saying it was 3 years ago, um,
yeah, yeah, you're right.
around time, I don't remember if we did a show in like 2019 together.
When
I
was
thought
the Day of the Dead art show? Because
so.
that's the
The
last
day
one we did together.
was the last one we did. I think that was 2018.
Oh, okay. Shit. All right, then, yeah.
And then, yeah.
Fuck. Okay. And yeah. That's wild. So yeah, bring me to speed on what you've been up to since you've been on here.
Yeah. Well, so like you said, shortly after
Well, yeah,
the
besides COVID.
after COVID happened. But funny enough, like for me, like while like it was, it was wild. I lost my job, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. But that also catapulted me into building my studio here fully to what you had seen before. You got a little snippet of it
Yeah.
before the call. And so I built that all out so I there it was just an empty garage. I put up a bunch of walls, and I slowly like I had all my stuff here, but I just hadn't really optimized the space in a way that I could use it in a space like I was used to working in, like I had before, and even when I was in college. So I built that out over a course of like a month or so, just keep going and designing and figuring out like what worked best, because there was a bunch of shit in there and I had to clear it all out that like wasn't mine. And so it was just organizing in that. And then I just like fucking went ham in the studio for like 2 years straight.
Yeah.
Like literally I was able to gratefully, between selling my work and doing painting murals and just painting houses, I was able to just get through like 2.5 years of pretty much just being on my own without an employer.
Yeah.
And it's been a wild ride.
Mm.
So I only actually just in the last, maybe it's been about 6 months now, I started a new actual full-time job where I'm not just like doing my own shit all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working for an art gallery now, doing art handling and restoration.
Mm. Now, what
But
exactly is art handling? Is it putting up the work and
so I don't work in a physical gallery space. I work in a giant warehouse filled with artwork.
Oh, okay.
So basically, every time something is going in or out, I have hands on it. I do like condition reports and, basically document the entire work. Um, and then it'll go on from there to either the gallery, a client, an art fair, or it's coming back to me, and that way it just goes into storage.
Oh.
So that's kind of how that works. And then we do restoration on any damaged work that happens. So damages will happen in shipping, or if something goes out on loan, sometimes things get damaged. Even at art fairs and at the galleries, like shit just gets damaged. People bump into shit.
Yeah.
You
Unfortunate.
know? Yeah. Um, and we work with like a lot of pretty big artists and um, really, really expensive work.
Hmm. Do you need does it require like experience to be an art handler?
Not
Yeah.
necessarily.
I'm gonna have
It
to look into
requires
that myself.
more so an eye for detail, observation. I mean, work like depending on the situation. Some situations are at a physical gallery location, so it involves hanging work on walls and stuff. And we have a viewing room, so we do like hanging, but we have like a handful of we have paintings for sure, but a lot of the work that we have is sculptural or
Mm.
larger scale pieces that and there's a lot like some I went into it knowing what I know with my background, like artistically, and understanding work and different media,
Mm.
and how things exist. But I'm learning a lot on the job too, of
Yeah.
just like what what different materials require as far as upkeep and things like that.
Mm.
Because I'd never worked with bronze pieces before, things like that. Even just a lot of even intricate woodworking, like type work, like things that I would have never known that you could do to fix a little dent in a piece of wood. I've learned
Mm.
without sanding it down, you know.
Oh, right, right. Damn. Oh, that's
So
cool.
it's super cool. I really like it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and super stoked to be there, to be able to be there. You know, to be in an environment. You know, because I gotta right now. I need to work somewhere, not just for myself, and
Yeah.
it's nice to be surrounded by art all day because then it inspires me every day. When I come home from work, I'm still in the studio. You know,
Yeah.
I'm there every day, 7 days a week, pretty much. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and so I get home, I I say what up to the fiance, and then I kick it in the studio for a couple hours
Yeah.
before we have dinner and the all that good stuff.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
I
been
remember at one point I contemplated like trying to get a job at a gallery. I mean, this was like years ago, and
yeah,
I just always, I just never did because I think just because of my educational background, like I didn't really, even till this day, I probably should, but I definitely don't know enough about other art mediums and stuff and like
yeah,
what they do, you know. So I just never, never bothered. And I
yeah,
kind of blame it on my program. I went to school for animation, so we didn't, everything was going digital, and for some odd reason, I started going the other way and finding myself working in traditional, working with hand again. And yeah, I always tell myself I should probably learn some shit about other materials.
yeah. I mean, but a great way to do it would be to immerse yourself in that environment, you know,
For
because
sure.
and like while I definitely had some chops, so quote unquote, like going into this job, I work with people who don't necessarily didn't come in with the same technical background as I did, let's say, and
Right.
they're able to do just as good, you know, because it's not all hands on. Like, we're not making the work, we're not doing
Right.
fabrication. It's most of the stuff is just you're physically handling work
Yeah.
and inspecting it, and in some ways it's kind of crazy. Like, I'll see things, because of some of the artists that we work with. Sometimes, like, I'll see a physical object that maybe that artist never will actually see in
Mm.
person,
Hmm.
like, because they've designed this thing, put it out into the world via a separate fabricator, and they certainly have some of them, but they make quantities of the same thing. A lot of times we deal with, like, some of the stuff is more like design pieces, so they're like furniture-esque things, while some of them are just more traditional, what you quote unquote traditional art, sculptural elements. um but some shit's just like a couch or a chair,
Yeah.
and, like, you got these some chairs that are like, you got 100 of them or more, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, you didn't see every chair,
interesting. So they got
so
a
it's kind of,
pretty big learning curve then, I imagine.
yeah, but
Well,
it's
maybe
kind
not a
of
big learning curve, but there is a learning curve that,
a learning curve in. So, like, let's say we work with maybe a total of 40, and that might be stretching it, saying 40. Maybe it's more like 30 to 35 artists, right? And maybe there's more based on what we have, but let's just say 35. So out of those 35, let's say going into it, I knew five of those artists.
mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like, maybe I knew more of them. I heard of a few more of them, but not many more. But now I know all of them, right? And I seen their work, I've touched their work, I've moved it, I've measured it, I weighed it, I photographed it, like it becomes. And then when you get into like doing things like doing like let's say even like waxing a bronze piece to prevent patina, like I intimately know it on that end, because I'm like, I'm up in every little crevice of that piece,
Yeah.
making sure everything's coated evenly and like there's no glumps or gunk left in it, or
Mhm.
cleaning stuff, you
Yeah,
get a real appreciation for every nook and cranny of a thing.
absolutely. That sounds great. I might really actually look into that because there's a lot of small uh art museums and exhibits here. So
Sure.
I might have to look
Yeah.
into that because I was working like a side gig for a buddy who has started like a junk removal business, which was it was good, but um I don't know, it pretty much plateaued at one point to nearly non-existent. So like I don't like I feel like I'm just on call now. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean I mean I'm not even trying to like make him sound like make him look bad. It's just he got a lot going on. So I'm just like, huh, well, I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna have to get another job somewhere. So, we'll see. We'll see. I might look into some of these locations here. But that's
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome that you're surrounded by art. I mean, that's a thing too. It would be nice to be surrounded by that stuff. I used to always be like, yeah, having like a labor, a job that involves manual labor, it's nice. It's a nice balance of what I do when I'm here. But when there's like those long days, I'm like, and there's like there's just nothing left in me after work.
Right.
So I need to break away from that.
Yeah.
So,
No, I
or-
get it. And I mean, not gonna front. I don't necessarily have long days. They're just regular days, hours, but like 8-hour days. But some of those days it's moving a lot of shit. We got some heavy ass shit, let me tell you. I
oh,
mean,
I believe it. I mean,
those thousands of pounds,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Like it's no joke.
No, I
Like
mean,
it'll
I'm sure it's not easy work, but yeah, I mean,
But it's good work. It's good
yeah,
work, and it's a good environment to be in. It's like I think of it as even the uninspiring stuff is inspiring because it's there.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because even if I don't necessarily like something, or I think it's made like shit,
Mm,
like I I can take something from it because I see that they've made it somewhere that I want to get to at a certain point,
mm,
like that's you know so it's inspiring in many dimensions.
mm. Well said. Well, speaking of inspiring work, I mean, you have such a large body of art now. Like you're saying, you've just been painting away in your studio, and there've
Yeah.
been some changes from, you know, I mean, I don't know how you sort of separate certain, groups of your pieces, but I can only refer to like the stuff that you had at the exhibits that the group art shows that we've done, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm not. I want to try to describe it, but I just feel like I'm gonna butcher it. But I mean, you know which pieces I'm talking about. It's your work.
Yeah.
But since then, your work has evolved, and especially in terms of technique and even just sort of I don't want to say subject matter, but just the way you paint is different. Like
Yeah.
you're making different strokes. I mean, some of them are more patternized now. Some of them at one point you're involving a lot of eyes. You're doing a
Yeah.
lot of stuff with the eyes. So, I mean, is all of this? I mean, I don't know. Are they all like accumulated into like how would you sort of separate these bodies of work? Are they all part of a series, or are they all like their
I'd,
own?
I'd say they've been a collective of different bodies of work. I'm the type of person who makes like I can't. I'm not someone who will sit down at one painting and paint one painting. The
Right.
simplest way is when I start painting, sometimes I put 10 paintings on a wall and start them. Sometimes I'll just go like one, oh, I got this canvas, I'm going to put it up and I'm going to start it. But I also have 16 other things on the wall that are happening at the same time. So it's interesting. They all feed off each other, and yet they all have a bit of a unique life within themselves. So
Mm,
I think there are certain things that they're definitely different series of work, and I break them up in different ways. Like some of the ones that are, um, okay, how should I put them? So I did a lot of I've done a lot of 8x10 paintings that are very similar in concept, as in, or looking similarly, where it's a maybe a flat or a tonal gradation in the center as a rectangle, and then coming out from it there's some type of a border, usually another gradation of often a contrasting color, or just a different color,
yeah.
that I then apply. So that those two layers are usually done with acrylic or aerosol, and then there's an oil layer that happens on top, which is done in two strokes every single time. It's two
Mm,
strokes. It's one going right and one going left,
right.
using the same knife, just a different side of it. And I pretty much I lay out my colors on my palette pretty raw. So
Mm,
like I'll squeeze out some white, normally about the width of the knife that I'm using. And I
mm,
use a lot of I wouldn't even call them palette knives at this point. They're knives used for applying spackle to walls.
mm,
Like they're big blades a lot of times. Sometimes, I have every size. I could go from a half an inch blade to a 12, 16-inch blade,
mm,
and so I'll lay out the color on the palette at the width of the blade, and then just taking straight from the tube, just squeezing out the colors in the orientation that I'm choosing, whatever that day's palette is, right?
mm.
And then the color is mixed pretty much just it gets loaded onto the knife from scraping both sides of it, and then the color mixes and is applied at the same time on the surface.
Mm.
Those started as like what I was calling. I started them out at some point in the quarantine time, right? And they became kind of like a daily study practice. Was the birth of them, really, because I was intrigued by this stroke and trying to develop my own language in a sense in the strokes that I paint with.
Yes.
So I was trying to find a space in which that the way I applied heavy paint could work, could be thick and textural, and like a little bit like heavy. There's a heaviness to it, but also find this simplistic beauty. Because I find that a lot of times, sometimes when I'm getting into some of these wilder paintings, they get so thick and they get so crazy that like even I get lost looking at them. And I
Mm,
wanted something that could be the most simplified version of what I was going for. So
mm.
I just I would do it in two strokes.
Okay.
Like obviously there's preparatory layers underneath, but in my head I'm still making a painting in two strokes.
Now, when you say language, what do you mean by that? Imagine trying to explain to this to like a complete non-artist that just doesn't.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So like when I speak about like language as in like the language of your work, or the way that you apply uh the way that your hand moves, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody has different works with different tools, and but they have their tools, and each tool that they use, they have a way that they use it. And
Mhm.
whatever way they're using it, like it doesn't matter if you're doing a super rendered portrait or a rough sketch, the movement of your wrist and the strokes that you make instinctively become your language of art making, is the way that I think of it.
Hmm.
So like there are we have different tools and techniques, but it's all just they then become, once you learn a technique, right, then it starts to synthesize and alchemize within everything else that you know. And then it starts to seep itself into you. And then you can seep yourself into it in a way, right? Is that I don't know if I'm making this simpler or more complex now.
Honestly, I'm gonna say right now, I think it's because this is would you put your work under the category of abstract?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, see,
absolutely.
you abstract motherfuckers, man. With your complicated art language. No, I'm kidding. No, I mean it I get it, but only so much of it. Because I do
I
understand, like, because when I do look at paintings, whatever, if it's abstract or if it's an actual like portrait, lifestyle, whatever, I do look for details in the strokes.
mm,
If it's a sloppy stroke, there must be, maybe it's describing like it's adding to the message of chaos in the piece, or something, like I'm always kind of contributing to that, thinking like, the strokes themselves kind of add to the painting overall. So if it's like a real, I don't know, like if I mean, I wouldn't be able to think of a piece, but I just always would look kind of determine the piece by how the strokes are done. Sometimes, not all the time, but I mean
sure.
that's as far as sort of my head kind of goes. But I mean,
Right.
it
Well,
seems like it's
think
much
about it.
deeper than that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
Think
no, you
about
get.
it like this. When you see a work of art by somebody that you know, right? And let's say like, I don't know, I'm trying to think basic. Like, okay, let's think like maybe like Salvador Dali. Everybody knows Salvador Dali, right?
Mm,
If you see a Salvador Dali painting, you might have never seen that painting before in your life, but you could pretty much look at it and know that that's Salvador Dali.
okay.
So something in that, and it's not just the fact that he's a surrealist artist in the way that he pushes the figure, but it's part of the way that he moves objects, but also the way that he applies the paint or the pencil,
Yeah.
or whatever, whether it was an engraving or a print or a painting itself. The way that he applies a medium to a surface, he's created a language in which you understand that that is him.
Mm.
If you were to look at your work, for instance,
So
you
the language is kind of like a style in a sense,
I think of it, it's in a way, it's like a style,
because
but
that's how
it's
I differentiate is like
sure,
not
sure,
language
but style
style.
is also can be so like generic, right? And everybody can be an abstract painter or a realist painter or a comic book artist or an animator, right? But they all have their unique vision or language that is the way that they project
Mm,
their vision into the world, right? So like it's in a way, like I say language because it's a way of communication, right? Art is a
mm,
way of communication and communication of idea and thought.
yeah.
So that's I think why I think of it in those terms.
It makes
Um
sense. I'm yeah, yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound like I disagree or anything. I guess like we all, I mean, we all use different words and we all use different languages to describe the work. But I mean, I think we're both sort of on the same page, right?
Yeah,
I think we just use
yeah,
different terms.
yeah.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying, because I mean you're right in that aspect. Like, when I'm looking at your work, I mean, I can't I can't think of I off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to think of another artist that kind of paints the way you do, to put it lightly, like again,
Yeah,
like the language, the
right.
way you paint your strokes. If anything, there is like one artist that I started following, a local artist here, and and I mean, only in one way, some of his paintings, I mean, not to like compare works, but sometimes some of his pieces actually kind of do remind me of your work, not so much because of the language of his work, but his
Mhm.
color palettes. He tends
Okay.
to use like almost the same type of color palette as you do. So often that will kind of, set off a signal in my head and make me think of your work. But his language is a lot different. It's a lot more not to sound disrespectful, but it's a little more chaotic. I feel like with
Okay.
your abstract work is is more structured to a certain
Mm.
degree,
Yeah,
right? Is that okay to say?
sure, absolutely.
I mean,
I
because you
think
got
that's something.
geometrics in there and stuff, so like there's cleaner
Yeah,
technique in your work.
yeah. It's something I strive for in making the work I want a painting to have structure, just because I'm paint like you know I could paint anything, right? Like I know the fundamentals of how to like mix color and how to make create shape and whatever. So I paint portraits of people. I've done, you know, flat illustrative stuff. Like I just I enjoy doing all this stuff, but I want like I want the work. I paint the way that I do, but I'm also such like a chaos person in general. My studio is relatively clean now, but it's like it's still
Yeah,
probably chaotic for some. And like especially with all the shit on the walls, like some you could lose your mind in there for sure. Especially some days it looks like I did, and so I think of it also like when I'm painting is like because I've taken paintings too far. I've been
mhm.
doing this for long enough now that I've started figuring stuff out in a way where like I know when I've done something pushed it too far because I keep wanting to push and push and
Yeah.
push, right? Like when you're making something and it's like but at the same time I'm still following like fundamental aspects of like image creation, right? So
Mhm.
like I still want eye to travel through the piece. I still want you to have moments of rest and moments of movement, like of like the general ideas, right? And things that like you're instructed in doing. But I do it now. It's such a could be what could be considered a chaotic method, but I try to tone that in because if I let myself go so crazy, it's just nothing, right? I
Yeah.
feel like there's nothing. It's just like it becomes lost. And so like I always like to think of it as like working on my paintings, it's like there's a fine line between like finished or not finished,
Mhm.
and there become these points in a painting where like one stroke could finish a painting or one stroke could destroy it.
Mhm.
So like it's just like it's that edge, and I like to play with that edge of so
Mhm.
sometimes things get crazy. Sometimes things get really crazy because I like to keep just like a little bit. I can put a little bit more in here and it'll still work. But
Yeah.
that's why I have all these different elements. So some things are get wild, and some things are more toned back and
Mhm.
structured. And like you see the structure, like it's
Mhm.
there in your face. I want you to see it. Um,
Yeah.
and that's just like, and that's not even like talking about like subject matter. It's just talking about like pure like the work itself visually.
Right. Well, that's why I like your work. I mean, that's probably why I like your work, because there is chaos. I mean, like, is it okay to call it controlled chaos? Because there is chaos, but again, right, you're riding that line where you kind of still hold it together with whatever when if you're using the border, or even like the pieces that you had at the Day of the Dead art show. Um, what's the what's the best way to describe it? They reminded me of like fireworks, right? Because you got
Yeah,
like they had like it's like explosive, but
they were.
kind of
Yeah,
going direction. You know what I mean? Like it's coming from somewhere, as
yeah,
opposed to, not to like disrespect anyone's work that may be like this, as opposed to like things kind of being, whether it's like splattered on or just like painted on and with no actual direction whatsoever. Like when people are like, oh,
right.
it looks like just someone threw a bunch of paint on the canvas. Like when it tends to look like that. I mean, like to each their own too. Like I'm just,
Sure,
but
sure.
I guess like when I'm looking at your work, it does bring comfort to me, because even though there's chaos, but there's still a structure to it. So I mean, and that's what's up.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree with you in many ways, especially when you're talking about like, again, there's no disrespect meant towards anyone who creates any type of work, right? Because I think it's great to just be creating.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that a couple things, right? Creation requires experimentation, right? So you need to try things to figure stuff out. And if it weren't for hundreds and hundreds of experiments, I would not be able to do what I'm doing now.
Right.
And just the same as like, people like talk about like throwing paint or doing whatever with paint. Yeah, sometimes it's cheesy and it can be a little bit hokey or whatever, but that's cool. Whatever. But then there's also some people who thought, I'm gonna throw fucking paint. And that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna fucking
Yeah.
throw it. And Jackson Pollock was a person like that, right?
Yeah.
And they he was once in within a studio setting, was once spoken to about like his throwing of paint, right, and his mess that he was creating. And I don't want to completely jarble the story, so I won't try and get into details of it, but the long and the short of it was the guy said something to him about it, and he picked up a brush that had some paint on it, right,
Mm.
and he hurled it, and it hit the doorknob, and he said, you can get out. So there can be, you can throw paint or you and just throw it, or you can throw paint and know how to throw it.
Mm.
And that's the difference in it. And that's even what I'm talking about, of like figuring things out and learning your language of how you do something. Because if you do something 100 times, like let's say you looked at somebody doing something, right? And you said, oh, I want to be able to paint like that, right? So you tried to paint like that and you did it again and again and again and again. Well, guess what? You eventually could get it exactly like that. Or along the way, you'll figure out this is actually how I like to do it.
Mm.
Maybe it takes you getting to that point of success, of
Mm.
knowing like, hey, this is the way that like that person did it. I figured it out. And then you kept going and you started realizing, well, maybe I got bored by this, but maybe like my hand moved a little bit funny this time. And I'm like, wait, I like that little bit funny thing that happened over there. How do I make that happen there over here? You know what I mean? Like it's just exploring and delving into your craft and just like being a part of it, and like it becomes a part of you, I think.
No, I
So,
agree. I agree
you know,
100%. I actually wanted to add that too, is that even if there's the pieces that paintings that look like it was like splattered, the paint was thrown at it. I mean, you're right. It's a matter of the technique. How? Oh, who? I should know this because we learned this shit in like high school. But who's the one that did like they did like the drops?
uh
it looked like someone was just dripping paint on the canvas. And
Yeah,
I mean, it gets like all the criticisms, like, oh, like I can do that. It looks like they just were
yeah,
dripping paint all over it. But it's like, yeah, but if you actually stare at it enough, you actually start discovering that there was a method to where the paint is being like, why is all the, let's say, like, why is all the blues here? And, or, like, it's not just everywhere. There's like, you can find pockets in certain sections of the painting, and it kind of adds on to the mystique of the painting, probably leading to the actual meaning behind it. So, I mean, sure, I guess I guess it just depends, like, whose work you're looking at, and if you can have a conversation with that person, it probably helps even more to get an understanding of it. So, um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't, I don't really know where I was going with that whole subject of that, but I think just because even like all this time, I'm not even trying to get an understanding of abstract art, but just trying to, well, yeah, I'm an idiot. I am trying to get a little more of an understanding of it, just because, is it just chaos, or is there a method to the madness? And yeah, there is,
I mean,
for the most
I think it's
part.
both. There's chaos, there's method. It's a combination of the two. Is a
Yeah.
combination. Sometimes there's just a combination of chance, because like it's this chance meeting of maybe one wet color reaching another wet color at a time that you didn't expect them to, and then suddenly
Mhm.
created something happened. That then like you took from, and that's the thing that I think about it too is like and like but I'll speak mostly about painting because that's pretty much mostly what I do. I'll explore other things, but I think my I can speak best when I'm speaking on painting. And you know I think that everything interacts differently, and every color and of every brand is a little bit different, and the color itself is different. The amount of pigment versus oil binder is different, and some are thicker and some are thinner, and you have all these different mediums you can mix into it and change the way that it looks and its thickness or its thinness. And so with all of this stuff, right, you could do so much stuff, but you just have to explore a little bit and
Mhm.
just explore these things,
Yeah.
explore mediums, see how they interact. Do something you hadn't done before, something you don't care about, right? Because
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time doing things I'd never done before on things I cared about, and I fucked
Yeah.
them all up. I learned a lot in the process, but
Yeah.
I fucked up that painting, right? So like I got tons of stuff that like I would never show anyone. I mean, I made probably a few thousand paintings in my life,
Yeah.
and like that wouldn't show anyone, right? There's some that I'll show people, but like it's all a learning stage. And you know what? Even to this day, like when I go back in storage, right, I'm looking at these things and I'm like, oh man, this is terrible, right? But this thing right here, that was it. That little 3-inch spot, that was the shit. If that was the painting, that'd be a fucking painting.
That 3-inch spot. But ain't that the truth, man? Yeah. So with you,
Because you just go on. Sorry.
no,
Question.
I was gonna ask, like, because you mentioned how you have a lot of work in progress paintings. You have a lot of paintings that are started, all on your wall. Which honestly, that gives me anxiety thinking about. I mean, even when I have stuff kind of just like hanging up, or just sitting there, it just gives me so much anxiety. Like, fuck, I need to get to those. But
Yeah.
I mean, that being said, when you're working on your paintings, do they each hold a message, or some, you know, yeah, do they each hold a message, or all of them together kind of add up to something?
I
Makes sense.
that it does make sense.
Yeah.
So I'd say again, they exist in different bodies of work, let's say.
Okay.
I think that many of them are carry there's lines that draw from each series into each other. So they carry similar thoughts, maybe. Might not all find the same meaning.
Mm.
So some of I think of those the first ones I was talking about that I called the daily studies. I still kind of think of those as these daily studies, but they've evolved from that into being uh you know they're it's like thoughts on a portal in a way, right? And it's the way that I kind of envision those is like it's this portal where because I often try to create like a depth of field happening towards the center of the piece, and then the oil kind of I think of as emerging from the center.
Mm.
And so it because sometimes I think of that as kind of like this energy, and it could be different based on each piece, but like I don't think of to kind of answer your question in another way. I don't necessarily think about what a piece will mean while I'm making a piece. If something comes to me in the creation of the piece, then I'll play with that and I'll let that sit on the side. But I allow the piece to become what it is, and that often will give me what it's actually about, if that kind of makes sense. So some of them, like some of the larger pieces, so like I have a another series of work I've been started like with like 2.5 years ago, right? Another body of work I had started before this daily study thing was right when I built this studio. I started these new paintings. My idea was I'm gonna create mirror image abstract paintings. So the idea is split a painting down the middle, and everything that happens over here, right? I started out real wild, right? So like I would take a painting, a canvas, right, and I'd have it up on the wall, and then I would take a can of spray paint, and I would just roughly like just eye out, scribbled line down the middle. There's the line. Okay. It didn't matter if it was wonky. Here's the cross. It was wonky, and then that created a bit of a wonkiness across the whole thing because then nothing really added up quite right. But it was interesting because it was a mirror, but it wasn't quite right. It
Mm.
was a little bit different on each side while being a little bit the same on each side. And those, I come to call those as a series, the Sacred Mirror series, not in no relation to Alex Gray's Sacred Mirrors.
Mm.
Totally different. I don't know if you're familiar with his
Well, I know
mirrors.
Alex Gray, but yeah.
Yeah. So like he did a Sacred Mirror series. That was just like every version of the body from skeleton down to muscular systems, things like that.
Mm.
All the way up to the spiritual element. I kind of jumped all the way through the body out.
Mm.
Didn't think about that. Just thought about like they became these like kind of spiritual things, and they started thinking having each one kind of had started to have different elements. So they in the mirror they started to create different things abstractly, but like oftentimes some people will come up and be like, oh, I see this in your painting, I see this in your painting. Well, I see a lot of shit in my paintings too,
Yeah.
but I see it when I'm making it, and it becomes a story in my head as I'm making them a lot of times. So I'm kind of constructing things. Some days I'm thinking about it, some days I'm not. And like these some of these bigger paintings, I mean, I've spent like a year or more so on some of them, working on some of them. There's a bunch that are done, but there's some that are still in progress. And like, so it's like, it's a long time to work on a painting,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, of course.
and like, they develop and they build. And that's part of working on them all at the same time, right? Because I'm like, if I got a little orange on a brush from working on the painting over here, right? Well, then I think, but I got a little more of this mixed orange over on this painting. on the palette, but I don't really need it over here. Could I use it over there or on any of these other things? So then sometimes I'll just take that paint and I'll walk it around and see, where would this fit somewhere? And it does, and I'll find a spot for it, and I'll fill that in, and that helps to start drawing the lines too, because then all of a sudden that same exact orange that was found over here, maybe in a lot,
Yeah.
it's found just a little bit over here. And it creates this play between the paintings and they start to have their own exchange. So
Hmm.
like they're more of like rough ideas and thoughts and meanings behind the paintings. I mean, like they come to like, some of them they have all like, so, yeah, I guess like some of them are just weird titles and stuff like that. Some of them are Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So like, like some of the stuff, like I was thinking about the chakra system. So some of the paintings are based on different chakras.
Right.
So like the ajna, right, chakra, which between your eyes, and like so like it was thinking about that, and it's just like this kind of slow development, and like I mean if and I think part of it too is like sometimes I write stuff down, and I got books of stuff that I'll write about, and I'll like sit down and write about a painting one day. But then like I don't obsess over all that kind of stuff too. Like I just is what it is, and it's more about the action, right? It's more about the story that's happening in my head while I'm painting,
Yeah.
and sometimes what the story was because
Hmm.
it was for that moment, right? And it's kind of painting is a bit of an ephemeral moment because you're just in this state of like doing, right? And I just do the stuff and it comes. And I don't really always know why it comes. And sometimes and like it's interesting because like even like you're thinking about some of the pieces I showed like 3 4 years ago, right? And or more, and I've taken ideas from those paintings and I've brought them over here, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is what I was trying to do. That wasn't it there. Like that was all right, but this is it over here. And it's just continuing to grow and to figure out like, oh, I had that idea like 10 years ago, but like I couldn't execute it. Like that's something I'm doing right now. I'm like, some of these more geometric paintings I've been doing, I was like sketching these and thinking about not the exact painting, but like the theme or the common elements were happening. I didn't have a way to execute it then, or to actually make the thing that was in my head.
Hmm.
And it's now that I'm like, oh, now I can do that, and I'm doing it without even really knowing it. So it's kind of this weird back and forth and play, and it's just
Hmm.
all play and fun. And like I like to paint, so I do it every day, and it's a
I
lot of
mean,
fun.
it definitely, I mean, it makes sense for your work. Um, yeah, it's just fascinating how like like, you know, all these creative minds, how they operate. Because I'm, I'm trying to take in as much as I can from what you're saying, and in a sense trying to put myself in your shoes. And I mean, it just makes it more clear that like my brain just operates way differently when it comes to like approaching a fresh piece, uh in a sense. And I think that's why I can't have too many unfinished pieces of work, because at least, and I'm speaking specifically about my work, but my paintings are sequential. So like, if I'm gonna leave something unfinished, I have to have like the general message on it,
Yeah,
and then the colors and everything start detailing the entire message. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to leave my sketchbooks or anything with like, so many strokes. I would have to have like a structured thing to kind of be like, oh, this is what this thing is about.
yeah,
Um, Also, and just because like, I can only have so many messages and ideas run through my head without getting them on paper. So that would just drive me nuts. But
right.
it's just so interesting, like diving into people's heads about it, especially abstract artists. That's why like I
Yeah.
have you on here, and I've had other abstract artists on it just to kind of pick their brains about their approach. And obviously, I mean, not all of your, you and the other artists I've had, you've all have different approaches. But it is safe. I think it is safe to say, despite being abstract art, you all do have your own specific artistic language, which I'm gonna say thank you for bringing that up, because I'm gonna be saying it a lot more. It kind of helps illustrate the differences of paintings, because I always just say different style, or because like, let's say with like comic book artists, um I guess you could say they're sort of, to be able to tell the difference with their language is how they draw their characters. A lot of them
Mhm.
have organic, smooth, rounded lines. Especially, we're talking comic books with like superheroes and their muscles and the anatomy. So, a lot of roundedness. And there are some artists that what's the word?
Like
They
super hard,
well,
like
they'll
right,
they'll
like
kind of like, they make things like um not like angular,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. So like some parts are round, and I do that sometimes. I mean, it's been a while since I've done like character work, but anytime I do any type of character, I tend to do that sometimes. Some parts are, if I'm drawing like the shoulder. Actually, yeah, I noticed this on some of my characters. If I'm doing shoulders, they're not always just rounded. Like they have like a soft, um how do I describe it? It almost has a point, but not. It's just a very curved,
Yeah, yeah,
edge.
exactly.
So, I guess that could be a way of showing that the language between comic book artists, like, some of them, they're very angular, some of them are
Yeah,
more organic and more rounded and flowy. So
yeah,
that's really fascinating. So hopefully people that are listening will now get a little clear understanding of like,
yeah.
you know, these
That's a
different
great
things.
way. I think that's a great way to put it, and it's like a very simple idea. Like some muscles are some drawings are hard and like they're tight and they're straight lines, just straight lines, straight lines, straight. And
Mhm.
like others, they're soft and like they just you can't you they just one line flows into
Yeah.
the next.
Like you can
And
tell they're
there's
using the
some
wrist to get that curve.
too. Exactly, it's a wrist, It's like it's all in your wrist, right? It's in your wrist, but like depending on what your medium is, right? So like
Yes, absolutely.
I'm very animated, right? Because I work on all these with these different tools, and so each one requires something different, but each one kind of like if it's your wrist, if it's your arm, if it's your whole arm, or it's your whole body moving, depending on the size of the thing that you're working on,
Hmm.
you know, you, it becomes more and more physical. And I think that's part of this, like the lost thought is like how many people think that like people think about someone sitting over the toiling over their easel, like, and that some people do, they sit there and they work from one corner all the way to the other, and they
Yeah, yeah,
finish every little here all the way to there, and that's it. Some people are all over the place, right?
yeah.
Some people get a sketch in, then they do the next step, and then they do the next step, and then the next step, and it's done. And it's everybody's process, and it's the way that everybody moves. But the way that you move is, again, it's that becomes a part of your language. That becomes the way that you make a stroke is your stroke, right? Because you move this way, and no matter and nobody else has that in them because you've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah, yeah.
That one, yeah.
It's actually really funny that you said, because I actually do purposely draw from right to left and sometimes top to bottom.
Mhm.
I say because I'm a lefty. Because if I start like on the left side and I work my way over, I'm gonna smear that shit over. So I always,
because you're working in like that,
yeah,
that medium requires that,
yeah,
in a certain extent. So you found the optimal method to work in your media.
yeah, yeah. You're right. I mean,
And
as a,
that's what,
and I'm always also like I work at a studio desk. I don't work on a on an easel as much, but I always hope to I always think if I were working, probably if I start expanding on size, I'll start doing more of you know be using the easel, and I'll probably be able to it'll work wherever I want and start wherever I
yep.
want. But if I'm straight on paper on a studio desk, it's a different approach for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different approach for me no matter where I'm working on, like typically, and what surface I'm working on,
Right.
because of I work on different surfaces, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I'll work on canvas. Different canvases have different surface, right?
Hmm.
So you could one a canvas that's pre-stretched, and that you hang that up or you put it on your easel, and when you're there, it just keeps bouncing. It's bouncing,
Hmm.
wise, and you can only put so much pressure, and at a certain level of pressure, you're making a line because of the
Yeah.
canvas stretcher behind it, right? And so you have to learn how to adapt, right? So you
Yeah.
gotta go soft, gotta be lighter, or maybe you like that it leaves a line, but you
Right.
can't really scrape, right? So maybe you don't scrape as much. And but like, or then I work on flat, right? So or I unroll a roll of canvas, I cut it, and I tack it to the wall, and I work right on the wall,
Mm.
right? And provides a different surface. Or I work some of the stuff's on wood, and that has a different surface. And all of these things not only feel different, they accept paint different.
Hmm.
Paper accepts paint way different than canvas does. You have to each thing is different. Each type of paint you're applying, if you're using acrylic or oil or spray paint, whatever, ink, brushes, oil pastel, chalks,
Yeah.
it all has a different way of going onto the surface and interacting with that surface, and also interacting with the other things that maybe you mix it around with,
That's
you
true.
know.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, as you work with like watercolors and stuff. I'm sure that if you were to put like a certain ink down or use a certain pen and then get that wet brush, you're just gonna pull that ink right up, and it's gonna
Yep.
fuck up that color that you had, that nice color you just you took out of your pen.
Yep. And even before applying, water or watercolor, I mean, even just the ink alone, if I'm depending on what kind of paper I'm using, right? If it's cold press or whatever, sometimes that ink just runs like,
Yep.
you know, because of the way the paper is absorbing it. And
Mhm.
yeah, and through through trial and error, you learn that, you
Yeah.
know, it sucks when you waste money, but that's just all part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
You know.
damn. So, all right, let's let's switch subjects real quick. This is actually a current uh topic I've been bringing up with certain artists. Uh, what are your thoughts on AI illustrate a artificial intelligence creating paintings? I mean, now they got apps for it. So what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that? Whether like I mean it kind of worries me a little bit, but only just for the idea of like being replaced by an app. So I
Yeah.
wonder if does that kind of linger in your head? Does that ever become a slight concern, or are you just kind of
I, I never really thought about it until you asked the question.
oh
Um, I'm not, like I'm pretty out of touch with a lot of things going on in the world, but like
which is
that's
that's
definitely,
fine. That's
yeah.
okay. That's good.
Uh, can't really speak on too much because like
Well,
I
do you
I mean,
want me to
again,
explain a little bit more on like how this is how this AI thing is going?
something about it. Tell me about this. I'm listening
So
to you.
so to put it in so many words. So now there's this AI called Dolly, actually, or Dolly 2. They made a another version, and basically it's like this engine where you basically you can literally just type in a bunch of keywords. Like you're basically describing a painting that you would like created. So you type in all the words that you can think of, all the detailing of this uh, future painting, and then the AI just does it in a matter of seconds.
Okay,
So you can be
interesting.
like, I want George Chiavelli painted as baby Jesus in a Michael's vest or something like that, right? And then it'll fucking do it. Now to say that it's like as accurate as if it to say that it completes it in to your expectations, that's here or there. But I mean the technology is just gonna get better. So I imagine it's gonna get closer and closer to whatever the person wants. But that's sort of the thing that's going on now. They have these AIs that generate that pretty much just create the work for you, whether it's paintings, music, speeches, and then there was something else I can't remember right now, but yeah, it's like the AI is kind of taking over the creative realm, which is a little concerning to me.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I understand your concern.
So
And
how does that make you feel?
when I think about something like that, right, it's uh, um, my first thought was it sounds well, it's not. It sounds a lot like a person, and these people exist in the world because the stuff sells, right?
Yeah.
Um, everything only exists because somebody else is willing to buy it, for the most part, like commercially, right? So there are people who will walk into Home Goods and they will walk to the art department and they will look through the art in Home Goods and they will say, "Oh wow, look at this, love it, love it, love it, love it," right? And
Yeah.
buy four fucking things, spend $600 on some stuff that was made, that was printed out. Maybe it was hand touched by some guy in a factory somewhere, and they smeared some stuff or like squeezed something out of a tube and wiped one line. Right,
Mm.
that's like the type of stuff you're getting at Home Goods.
Mm.
And people go out and they buy that, right? And they're perfectly happy with having Home Goods art. That's there's 2,500 home goods stores and they all sell the same shit, and so hundreds and if not thousands of people could have the exact same thing in their house,
Yeah.
and they're cool, fine, let them. I don't care, right? There are other people who are going to go out, seek out art, what I'll call real art that was made by an artist, and want it, pay for it, and hang it in their home.
Yeah.
And it's two different types of people. There are, people that appreciate the object for more than objectivity. They appreciate the fact that it's a creation by someone, that it took time, probably. Most people probably don't even think about it, but it actually took years because that person took time to learn to do their craft, whatever that craft is. They figured it out and now they bought it. And that person can appreciate that thing on a deeper level. So it's kind of like surface level or deeper
Yeah.
level, right? You can have surface level shit and surface level conversations or surface level objects, or you can have something that actually has meaning and thoughtfulness put behind it.
Mm,
And an artificial intelligence art piece of art isn't, to me, interesting at all, because it's just a recreation of something.
mm,
Yeah, I mean, if when the camera was invented, painters, lots of painters,
yep.
their main job, they made money by painting portraits. And
Yep.
the portrait painting industry took a crash, right? But guess what? How many years has have we had a camera? And do
Mm,
people still paint portraits? They do. People still buy portraits. They still go out and commission an artist and pay thousands of dollars to have them take their portrait that they could have done with the thing in their pocket,
yeah.
you know? But they
Mm,
choose not, because it's something more, right? Now, if I have a different feeling about art that is created with technology, because I'm interested in art created by technology
mm,
that has that is because that is still, in a sense, man-made. It's still required. It may be have a production part of its production level is created with a tool, but technology is just that, right? So say some artist came up and said, "Oh, I'm going to take this AI thing, right? I'm going to have it. I'm going to type in a bunch of stuff and have it make me these paintings, right? And then I'm going to take these paintings in
mm,
physical form and do something, take them to the next level beyond that thing."
mm,
Yeah, I'm into it. Then I'm fucking into it.
mm.
So
All right.
that's my feeling on that, right?
It
I
definitely
think.
makes sense, but I guess maybe I'm kind of responding or reacting to what I'm responding. No, I'm reacting to what majority of people are reacting right now with this,
Okay.
so maybe that's why it's bringing worry, because I'm seeing how much engagement it's getting. I already
Yeah.
see. And maybe it depends on the art, right? Maybe it probably puts me to worry because I don't, I do portraits, I do, landscapes and these things. Whereas, you can just take those keywords from the idea and then just type it in the app and then the thing will just paint it for you. I guess I just worry about people because, like, let's face it, man, we're in a world now where a lot of people go for convenience. They go for, immediate satisfaction, gratification and all that. So, like, um so I guess I'm just worried about like what that can lead to. It's like, I mean, I remember seeing not too long ago when people there was like some online like app or something where people would like, I don't know how these painted portraits were generated, whether they submitted a picture and then it kind of just made it look like a painted portrait. But I remember
Yeah.
it was like a thing for a while. And I'm not gonna lie, that shit was like starting to piss me off because I'm like, oh, I was like, I mean, sure, like you can get that in a matter of seconds, but I'm like, man, like I would have loved to do that for you. But again, right, it's all a matter of like convenience and how quick you can get it. And I guess I just worry about, you know, soon enough that's gonna be everyone's desire, is just to have it right away. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, think about it. Everyone's attention spans is getting shorter. Sure enough, people's patience are going to become even shorter. Again, people are trying to leave this physical realm with, the virtual reality and all that. Like, I guess I'm just like really starting to worry about what the future can hold. But I mean, who knows? It probably won't. It might not even be for a long time till we actually, like, we would have to worry about it. But I don't know. Been I just been poking a lot of artists' minds about it, and just to see like how like what they think about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of like
No,
a
it interesting talking point for sure because as it clearly has like done with you, like these things they kind of like push a little button, right? And like
Yeah,
it's like, oh wait a minute, away. They're taking that thing away, ideal away, right? But again, I think it comes back to like, yeah,
consumer.
so it's a consumer, right? But like, so yeah, sure. I know exactly what you're talking about, the little faces, and it turned out everybody that paid whatever they paid for, got whatever they got for the stupid face picture paint digital art thing.
Yeah,
Like, you know what it was? It comes down to it's a fucking TikTok filter. It's like another fucking filter. That's all it was. It's
yeah.
not some auto-generated thing. It's a filter. Every one of those fucking things looked identical. They were the exact same picture with a different person's face on it. The
Mm.
same colors, the same exact marks, the way they were made in the exact kind of same shapes. But you know what it is? All those people got their information stolen from China. So whatever. Sucks to be you. At the same time,
Yeah,
the point of my story, me saying all that is this: all of those people
yeah.
went out and got this thing because they wanted a new profile picture, right? But
Very true.
how many of those people would have actually given the option, paying the same, to pay an actual equivalent value, not some $2.99,
Right.
like would have actually went out and had someone that you could have said, "Hey, look at I did 1,000, I did 100 of these portraits exactly like this. They all look the same. They're gonna be great. Could be you on this, right?"
Mm.
But would they have came and bought it from you? Would all of those people have come and bought a painting? No, they wouldn't have because they don't care about art. They don't care about
Yeah.
like the painting itself. They care about being on the trend of everybody else's photo looks like this, right? So
Mm.
my photo has to look like that. How do I make my photo look like that?
Yeah.
Oh, you pay $2.99 for this filter, but it's a painting.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
like
it's definitely
filter
an
they didn't
argument.
even give you. They've gotten better than giving you filters. They didn't even give you. They're making you pay for one photo now. It's not. It just filter is like you telling you to go fuck yourself. It's like wait, no, yeah, I could get a filter that makes you fucking look like a painting or look like a sketch right in my phone, and I can take the picture and I'll look like a sketch.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, but it's not. It doesn't. It's not. It's just like it's recreation of generic material, right? And people that, sorry to say, people that want generic things get generic things. If people want something that's unique, they will seek out uniqueness and unique people.
I mean, you're right about that, but I mean, the Dolly thing is much more elaborate,
Yeah, I'm
though.
sure it's much more complex and advanced for sure. Because like you said, I'm gonna have to look into this now because now you got me curious to see
Dude,
what
I'm
like it's
telling you,
doing.
like,
Right?
and it's wild what people will submit, like what they ask the AI to do. Like, there's I talked about this with another guest. Someone entered like, oh, I mean, you can Google it. It's like the last human selfie on Earth, and there's like these paintings of. I mean, some of them are like they're like really dark, and like one of them kind of looks like a zombie taking a selfie, and it's like there's like an
Yeah,
explosion in the background and shit. Some of them is like one's like some weird like alien like grotesque thing. Like I mean, it comes out like bizarre results, but I mean, depending on the actual application, like I mean, it also comes up with some like I saw recently. I mean, it's kind of been going around. A painting of Chris Farley as the Joker, and that shit it looked fucking sick, and I'm just like shit. Like someone, I could have done that as a commission for someone or something, but I don't know. I just worry about what it can lead to.
yeah.
But you know, who knows? I mean, maybe it might not even go that far, but I just really thought it's just an interesting time for right now with AI because it's doing all this crap. I mean, again, it's not even just the paintings, it's the music. Like, I remember seeing like a video on this dude that uh I guess he wanted to hear what a new song by the Beatles or some other artist, what a new song by them would be like. And then the app or the AI, it like just generated this whole new song and it sounded like the Beatles. And I don't know how it worked, but it probably took like each word from like other songs and just made this whole new song with all the data. And it's like, oh shit. Like, it's not like you can pick a section of the song and be like, oh, that's from this song and that part is from that song. It's like just the way it was constructed, it was impressive. But I'm like, again, it's like, damn, like you can almost essentially come up with a new album with a dead artist. I mean, it's like almost like the concept of, you know, what is it, deep faking with faces, like we're gonna start, I mean, yeah, we're already starting to see dead people on the screen. you
Oh,
know, it's
yeah.
just wild.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean it's like all that stuff. Like, I mean that makes me actually. It's funny that you say that because it almost makes me feel safer that when you say that because to me that it's just all becoming copyright infringement at that point, right? Because like if you're just stealing all these little bits, right? You're stealing the word because that's essentially what this AI program is doing, right? Is stealing the words or images, and so like it's not creating something new. It's taking something that already exists and mapping it onto something else. So it's essentially just stealing data
Yeah, I don't know.
from the internet. And the internet is like, while all that stuff exists, right? It's like, it comes down to like, okay, yeah, like, oh, here's one. I want to see Obama on a poster in blue and red with the word hope underneath, right? Well, it's going to take a picture, it's going to edit it, and it's going to look like kind of like the Shepard Fairey version of the hope poster, right? But guess what happened to Shepard Fairey when he put out that poster and he didn't make any money off of that poster?
Mm,
He got sued and he went to court for fucking such a long time
mm,
because of the Associated Press sued him for use of their photograph. So if this is taking images, right, let's say, or music, right,
yeah.
it's just stealing little tiny bits. It's just creating this amalgam of like stolen data.
I mean, I can see that applying to music, but like
I
I
mean,
don't know
it
about
can't so generic, so sim easily be applied to artwork, right? But think about it like this, like the Chris Farley thing you saw, right? Well, I'm sure that Chris Farley, that the image of Chris Farley as Chris Farley came from somewhere. It came from a pre-existing image of Chris Farley,
mm,
right? It's not like it
maybe, or it
construct
came from multiple images of Chris
or it came from multiple
Farley.
images of
Huh.
sure.
But then it's like, but then how much of that has to be identified to to actually apply as copyright infringement?
Well,
Like yeah,
yeah,
because if you play a
part, it
song
would
for
have to be like it would have to be a clearly identified piece of the image that was owned by somebody else.
which is
Clearly,
I feel
it's
like it's
different.
like it's very very slim though these days. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
if I mean, and this is like assuming like if 3D modeling is involved, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I only know so much about the AI, and like, I mean, I honestly don't really know too much besides what I said, how it kind of operates. But in terms of
right.
how it comes up with the data to even like create a stroke of paint or whatever, I mean, that's when it gets real technical. But I don't know. It's fascinating, but also kind of alarming for me, and I'm just curious how far that'll go.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. We're fucked. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding, everyone. Uh so aside from being cooped up in the studio and painting your ass off, I mean, what else have you been up to? I mean, when there isn't a moment when you're working, like how like what else are you doing?
People ask me this question, like, "Oh, what are your hobbies? Like, what do you do for fun?" I tell them I paint. Now I have a good one for you. When I'm not painting, sometimes I'm sculpting or carving. Uh, I've been doing these wood carving pieces for the past few months. They're kind of new and they've been a lot of fun.
Mm,
But I mean, I live on a lake, so I go kayaking.
nice.
I dog who made an appearance earlier in the podcast. Yeah, no, like I like hiking and stuff, but I mean, yeah, I really,
Just
it's funny
create.
because I spend a lot of my time painting. If
I
you know
I
now,
really
like
admire that, though.
I work 40 hours a week, and I'd say I probably paint 20 plus hours a week.
Mm,
So like, and more, on average, I spend 2 hours a night every night after work in the
mm,
studio. It's like 2 to 3. Friday nights usually late. I usually work till like 10 or 11. So I usually get home around 4 to fill
okay.
that gap. So like I usually work till like 6:30 most nights, but Friday I work till like 10 or 11. Then
Got
I
it.
get up Saturday morning. Usually I get up pretty early. I mean, not as early as I get up during the week, but I usually get up around 7
Yeah.
and I turn the coffee on. I go to the bathroom. I do my thing there. I fill up a cup of coffee and I walk outside the studio and I start my morning there.
Mm,
And then, like, wait, and then I'll get up and then I'll maybe have some breakfast, go back outside, paint, unless we got something to do or
yeah.
we're planning on. I take every opportunity I can to paint because, like, it's just fucking love it, man. I
Oh,
do.
that's great,
Like,
man.
just when I'm painting, like, I love my fiance. I love hanging out with her. I love my dog. I love hanging out with him. But she knows and she says it. Like, she's like, painting is sometimes painting is your wife and I'm your mistress. like, and it's the truth. It is, but it's like, we find this balance that it works and she understands. And it's a beautiful thing because she understands. Like, to have a partner who gets this fucking, like, this creative obsession, this like itch that I have to just do, right? And
Mm,
that's the thing is, like, even if I'm fucking dead tired, right? I can go out there and I'll sit down. Yeah, maybe I'll put on some music. Maybe I'll put on like a TV show in the background or something. And sometimes, yeah, I'm just sitting there smoking a joint, watching TV. But then but like, I'm like, at the same time, I'm surrounded by artwork. I'm
yeah.
surrounded by my work. I'm surrounded by every single tool that I need to do to create, right? It's all within arm's reach. I can just go over here and do this thing. And so, like, I'm like a Boy Scout in that way, where I like to, like, have every fucking thing that could potentially need. Like,
Mm,
if I hear about a new thing that I didn't know about yet, and I'm like, oh man, what's this stuff? Like, or it's like, oh, what's this new brand of paint?
yeah.
I'm gonna get that, right? I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see what it does. I'm gonna explore it,
Mm,
or I'm gonna buy it, right? And maybe I try it one time, and I'm like, all right, that's all interesting. That didn't do exactly what I thought it was gonna do. And then it sits on my shelf for 5 fucking years, and I don't touch it. 5 years later, I'm like, yo, where's that thing? This would be perfect for that thing right there. And then I go to the shelf and I dig it out and I try to find it, and I find it, and it works.
mm.
I don't know. It's just like I think it is. It's an obsession. Like I'm like it's like it, in a way it can be like this neurotic itch of like, I must create thing I have to do. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I have to do it. And even if I go in and I make one stroke on a painting that night, it just doesn't happen often that I just make one. But I'm just saying, like, if I just make one, that's enough. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
enough. And I sat there, I put myself in the place,
Mm-hmm.
surround all of the things that I could need to do the thing, and I did something. I did something that day. And that's what it comes down to, even if it's just one stroke a day. And I tell this to people who are like, how do you find time? How can you just have the energy? Where's the motivation come from? It's put yourself in the place to do the thing, right? Like
Gotta show
you
up.
work, you try to work out every day, right? Well, to work out, you got to get to the gym. You got to get to your setup. You got to get your gear out. You got to go for that run. You got to lace up your shoes to go for the run. So like,
Mm-hmm.
put yourself in a place that you can create. And no matter what the space is, like I feel blessed to have the space that I have and the spaces that I've had in my life to create, because the way that I do it, I couldn't do it to the level that I do in a different space, in a smaller space. Like if I was confined to a table, I could do it, and I have, because it's cold out there in the winter, man. Let me
Yeah,
tell you, it gets
I
cold as
believe it.
shit.
By the water,
So,
bro.
so I just fucking I'll come in the office. I got a little office in here, and this last winter when I was like just doing side gigs and working from home, I spent my time in the office and I was painting these little paintings
Yeah.
in the office and just doing this stuff. And I was like, I can't be out there, so I had to be in there in somewhere warm. It was just too cold because I mean, it gets like 35 degrees in the studio in the dead of winter. Like, it's cold,
Yeah, it's
layered up, layered up, let me tell you. But I do it. So it's the sick. It's like a sickness because I go out there at 35 degrees and I spend 8 hours there
I wouldn't
because
even
I.
say it's a sickness. It's like it's
It's
just
not a sickness, but it's
discipline.
what I
It's a
mean.
lifestyle.
I do crazy shit for this thing, right? I committed my life to do this thing. So I will do crazy shit to be able to do this thing that I love,
Yeah.
right? You know, like I love painting, and I love painting in all types of ways. I like painting inside, I like painting outside, I like painting murals. It's super fun. I like painting big. Like it's a super cool thing about painting murals is you just get like canvas big, but like the mural big is fucking
Ah,
crazy. You can get like,
I
you
wish I could
know,
do large scale. I can't. I feel like my work is just too detailed for that shit. I mean, well, not too detailed for it, but I'm just not comfortable expanding the detail, I guess.
yeah. Well, I mean, it would require one of two things, right? Because the way that you work is primarily that I see you work with pencil, I see you work with pen and ink, and I see you work with like a lot of watercolor type work.
Yeah.
So like, but for you, do a pencil sketch on a smaller piece of paper or a bigger piece of paper, like something like this, that takes a lot of time to get all that stuff in, right?
Yeah.
So to do the same thing this big would take this much more time.
Yeah.
It'd take it a lot more time. So with those tools, the thing is that's why like I like to explore different tools,
Mm,
because there are different tools for working bigger and different ways to achieve similar effects just at different scales.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, painting murals, I wouldn't paint a mural with a little brush.
Well, no, of
People
course
do
not.
it. You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
do it, but wouldn't, you know?
No, I
I
mean, even with the right equipment, though, I'm like, I mean, I'm probably just like overthinking it right now, but I just like, I'm just thinking in terms of scale, like, if I drew a head and like on paper and then as opposed to blowing it up on the wall, just trying to get the dimensions right. I worry about that. But again, right, like I mean, I haven't tried it. So I mean, it's one thing to kind of just try to predict the outcome, and actually, going out there and trying it is a different
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, it's a way, like, in a way that becomes a way of like psyching yourself out of doing something.
Yeah.
When like it could be a simple solution, right? Think about it like this. Like if you work on an 8 by 10 piece of paper, I see you make preparatory grid marks. You're gridding up your surfaces a little bit, right? You know this is about halfway. This is my center point here. Well, okay, well then this right here is about where my eyes are gonna go, and then the nose is gonna be just the exact proportion down here, and then the mouth should start about here, right?
Yeah.
Because you understand the proportions of a human face.
Yeah.
Well, take instead of 8 by 10 piece of paper, maybe it's 8 by 10 foot wall.
Yeah.
And all that is, it just only changes scale.
Yeah.
It doesn't change where those lines are. Those lines are in the exact same spot.
Right.
So those eyes on the wall are on the same spot as they are on the paper.
If they're done right.
That's what.
Yeah.
How,
I have
know,
to try. I do have to try it out. I will admit.
how did it take you to do a drawing that you liked? How long did it take you to draw a face that you were real confident with? That you were like, damn, I nailed that portrait. That's good.
I mean, maybe a handful if I'm lucky.
Hey, you're still counting. You're still only counting the ones you really like. But you know what I mean? Like, but there was a point where you got it. There was a point before you had it, and a point that you got it. And once you had it, you understood. You understood the steps that you had to do. There's always going to be a learning curve. There's always going to be a way to time. It's always going to take time to figure it out, especially when you're exploring new things.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding the basics is what gets you there, and understanding all of those elements gets you there. Because you know what the thing about paint is? If you fuck it up, you can just paint over it. You just put more paint on, do it again.
Yeah.
I love that about paint. You know what I mean? Like, I was working on this painting today, like before the call, right? And I'm doing this. It was the one I posted today. I don't know if you saw it. It was in a. It was.
I haven't been on that today, but I will.
But like, this very geometric. It's all these concentric circles, different colors for the most part, kind of all vibrating out in different sizes.
Yeah.
Now I've been working. I started this painting maybe like a week or two ago. And I've just been building it, right? Building out the form. I don't know what the fuck it's gonna do, what's gonna happen. I just every day I keep going and I keep adding to it because I think, okay, well, this is gonna happen. And adding to it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm changing the whole thing around. Some days it does. Some days it changes the whole thing because I'm adding another solid block of color, right? And I'm like, oh, this new circle is gonna be orange. But and that's gonna cover up a bunch of the smaller shit that's going on over here. But that's okay. I don't even really know what's happening yet. Like, I'm just figuring it out. And today I was in there, in the studio, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I did some other thing on this other area. I added another layer of a certain color, because that happens. I find that I do that a lot. I really like to layer and layer and layer color because it makes the color that much richer. Instead of one coat of red, maybe it's 5 coats of red, because then that red's really fucking red. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it does. Every layer adds something else to it, and even if you can't see what's happening underneath, it's affecting the layer on top, because of the nature of what works, right? So anyway, I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, oh man, this section right here in the middle, this is nice, right? I like this is happening. But that color, the third color out, it's just not right. It's just not right. It looks fleshy. It looks dull and dry. What am I gonna do? All right, well, I got this pink color over here. Let me try the pink. So I redid every fucking one of them in pink instead of the dull orange that it was. And guess what? It looks way fucking better. And now tomorrow I'll find something else to add or change or add depth to. Like, then you just keep it's a game. And like, to me, that's why I like having a lot of different things going on, because my head is all over the place, and I can. It gives me a way to come in, and I don't have to know what I'm going to work on today. The painting will tell me wants to work or wants to be worked on. It'll figure out. It's like, oh, look at this. Like, the paintings will speak to me, right? Because it's like, oh, I need this over here and I need this over here. But maybe today I'm kind of tired and my hand's not feeling like doing real tight work. So I'm not gonna fuck with that. I'm not gonna fuck with that thing over here because that requires a steady hand. Maybe I'll work on this over here. That's kind of loose. It's kind of loose, and I can be. I don't have to be so tight. I can whatever. If it's a little bit of a squiggle instead of a curve, it's all right. That's a little squiggle. You know, like if my hand, and it's like I play and I explore different things, and it helps me balance, and I'm tired, I can go in and look, and I'm like, all right, well, I can work on that. I can just do that little section right there, right? And I'm just gonna do the blue right here, this one dark blue section. All right, I'm adding just another layer of it. Blue. Oh man, that was good. And all of a sudden, an hour goes by, and I've done 6 different colors, and I've added all these things going on. And now I'm mixing color over here, and I'm doing something over here. And I was tired an hour ago. What happened? I don't know. I'm painting now. Like, it pulls the life into me, and it excites me, and I just get going. And that's what happened.
Time is an illusion, like we said.
Yeah.
For space.
Yeah.
But in seriousness, though, I do admire that about you. That needing, that obsession of painting, wanting to create. Because, like, I don't know, for me, I unfortunately have to shut it off sometimes because I don't know. Sometimes I think I might have anxiety, like legit clinical anxiety, but it just so much goes on in my head, and I just need, whether it's like a vice or just another endeavor to like distract from that. I don't know. I can't quite articulate it right now, but sometimes I feel like my brain kind of needs like a rest from the shit that I'm working on. So
yeah, and I mean, I think that's why I agree, and that's again why I do different things, and why I like some. That's why I started doing these wood carvings.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, all right, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, all right, I'm tired. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, I'm working with sculptures all day at work, right? And I'm like, oh man, these wood pieces are so nice, and the grain is so nice. Well, I have these little fucking scrap pieces of wood here.
Yeah.
Like, what would happen if I started getting into this? And then all of a sudden, I was like, It started with just like chiseling and hammering, banging shit, and now I knew what the fuck I was doing. I just chiseling wood, right? And I'd sand it, and I get the Dremel out, and I get into it, and I drilled through it. All right. And then I just started getting in and sanding more and dremeling and smoothing it out and creating these surfaces. And all of a sudden, I was like, wait, this is something. And hours have gone by, and I didn't even realize it. And it's just like, wait, and then it's like this other, it's creative, it's this, but it's they all pull from different areas and require different things. So, you know, like I said before, some things are tight and it needs like a really tight hand. Some of them are loose. Some of them are just smashing shit, you know, some is carving and sanding for hours and just making it so fucking smooth.
Yeah.
And oh, and also like I like playing, and it's all playing for me. And sometimes when things get too serious, I'm like, no, I need to go do something that's more fun. And
Mm.
like so like, but like sometimes fun for me is like doing like tests of stuff of like, oh, let me just like see what like this does if I put it with this, or like, oh, what, or like I don't know, like I'm just gonna go fucking grab a bunch of paint and like go out. I got this big wall. So I got like out in the back of my studio, I have this big pieces of plywood that are leaned up against the wall that I just paint shit on, just like whatever's. You know, I've painted over it so many times that like you know I couldn't even tell you how many times I've painted these boards. But it's just like, you know, it's just something to do. And like sometimes I go out and I'm like, oh, I've got this idea and I'm just gonna fuck around with it. So I get some spray paint and I just start fucking around.
Mm.
Sometimes I'm just like a couple cans lying in the back. I'm like, oh, let me just try something like this. Or
Mm.
like do this, like see what these colors mix together. And like what would happen if I put this green here and like blended it up? Like how could I make purple get to green like in a gradient? Or like, you know, just thinking about thoughts and like, but it's not always like thinking about those things. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just like I'm just doing it. I mean, it's the motions of doing the things that like that free me from having to think about like doing a thing, right? I'm not making this object. I'm just like doing whatever, and it's
Mm.
fun and it's free and it's just like it constantly it's like a self-feeding system, you
Mm.
know, like to do another thing makes you want to do another thing and another thing and another thing. And
Mm.
I think, you know, it's good to have other things in your life too. Like, you know, sometimes you know, it's weird. Like, yeah, like I'd rather, you know, it's like, yeah, no, I'd rather be painting. But like, you know, like I like all the other life shit, but I just
Yeah, of
really love this place that I've made for myself. Like
course.
this little, it's my spot in the world, and it's where I do these things. And it's both this space that it's like I could take my head, it's like what's inside my head, but it's all over here. And I can do anything I want in here and nobody has to see it.
Mm.
If I don't want someone to see it, they're not gonna see it. And it's just between me and this thing. And
Mm.
it's a relationship. And then there's these things that like, oh yeah, no, like you'll see them.
Mm.
But again, those things all just kind of happen because of the things that you never saw,
Mm.
you know? So like I don't know. I just find the fun in exploring and experimenting, and you know, I'm a mad scientist.
I love it,
Really.
man. No, that's great. I mean, it's good. I mean, it just, it shows how passionate you are about it. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
that's great.
no, and like you know, and I collect shit. Like I collect art too. Like
Yeah.
I love art, so like I don't just make it. I fucking collect it. Like
Mhm.
look, I mean, I see you got your figurine in the background over there. And
Yeah.
if I just turn the camera here, we could just go and see. Like, yeah, no, I don't fuck around. These are all things I bought. Like
Oh yeah.
I got a stack of unframed stuff in my office that like if you knew how much as a former framer, like if you knew how much shit I had in
Mhm.
my office that be framed, it's kind of sad. How long,
Uh,
but
it's actually
no, man.
funny. You just made me think about Michael's what was it? Uh this summer I went with Nicole to her stepbrother's little league game and fucking guess who I saw over there?
Oh,
Fucking Jason.
oh
Jason
man.
Moya. Yeah. He was one of the coaches. I was like, what's up, Kuya? And he was like, what?
Oh,
Like, holy
that's
shit.
funny.
Yeah, I was like, damn, fucking long time no see. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was interesting, but oh
yeah. I haven't seen anybody from a. No, it's really fun. In a long time. I need to get, especially since I don't live by that one anymore. I don't, not that I've been to a Michael's in a long time either, but that's the only one I would really ever go in, and it's the only one I would ever get anything framed at if I was gonna get something framed at Michael's.
all right.
I would only allow Maureen to touch my art. She's the only one that. I trust Doris too. Shout out to Doris.
What about
Trust Doris.
Malcolm?
Yeah,
Malcolm.
Malcolm's retired now. He's retired, last I heard. So yeah,
Okay.
I would trust him, but I'd probably. I love you, Malcolm. His shit was always a little bit crooked.
Okay.
If you look real close, it's a little bit
Okay.
crooked.
Well, you would, yeah, you would know. You know, working in that department for sure.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
like that.
the last time I
Yeah,
heard that Jane V's now in framing.
yeah. I've been there since I was there at one point when Jane V was in there and in the frame
Uh,
shop. But it's been a long time. I haven't been in there since.
it's completely different now.
Yeah, and
From what Jason told me, like a lot of people are out, you know.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, I started working there in 2009.
Yeah. Yep. Holy
Like,
shit.
that's a long fucking time ago.
Good times
Uh,
though. There were some good
yeah.
times.
Oh, we had great times there.
Yeah.
No, but now I'm trying to think what I was thinking about with Michaels. Oh, there was somebody I ran into. Now I don't remember. It was so weird because I went to, like, I was at the Trader Joe's by my house, right?
Mm.
And I was like, wait, there was somebody at a register, like, talking to another cashier that was, like, behind me. And I'm looking at the person at their back, and I'm like, who is this? Like, I know her. How do I know her? I don't know. I can't figure it out. I know her face. I know I've seen her before. What the hell? Where do I know her from? And I'm like running through all the different places I can find.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's one of those actions of people where you're like, you don't really know them, but you kind of, you've seen them around enough.
Yeah.
And it literally took like a week or two to figure out. I was like, ah, shit, she worked at Michael's. I was like, but what was her? I think she was like a night cashier. And I don't. I just feel bad trying to say her name because I think I would just
Would it
fuck
be
it up.
someone I might recognize?
She was. She was. I couldn't even tell. I feel like she was friends with like Sam
Sam,
D, and
Sam P no, it wasn't Sam P.
no, Sam
Was it
D, and
Ashley?
no. She was Asian.
Oh, Asian.
Something was her first name.
Oh, Miranda?
No, not Miranda, not Miranda.
She was like the
Uh,
only Asian.
Throwback Michaels. That's throwback Michaels. I was thinking of somewhat more of our like mid-career Michaels.
Oh, oh,
Yeah. Oh, you might have known her because you knew mad people from there. Actually, funny enough, you probably know my one of my coworkers now sisters, right? Because this girl came up to me. She doesn't work in the same place as me anymore, but she still works for the gallery. But she came up to me and she's like, Trisha, I was like, looking at, she was asking me about stuff. She's like, oh, you worked at that Michael's? I'm like, yeah, my sister worked there in the early morning replenishment shift, and like in like 2015. And I was like, man, I don't know. Like, that was like, I was like, I might have been around, but I might not have been around. I don't really know. I'm like, but like now
yeah.
I'm trying to remember her last name, and again, I don't know. There was just like a random. She said she was there when she was in grad school or something, and it was like one of those funny things where
Oh
like
man.
small world. But I mean, you definitely worked with her at some point because if it was that era, you were there. I
I mean, it
feel
had
like
to been it had to be like when did I don't know when I left Michael's. It had to been like towards the tail end of when I was there.
yeah, I feel like maybe it was like more like 14 because I just remember it was definitely during either my shift to the other Michaels or during my mid Michael's career sabbatical for about 9 months. Back Michael's.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know why I'm trying to think that far back. Is
It's
so
too far.
long ago. Oh man. But the sad part is it's probably gonna bother me for a little bit. Be like, what did George say?
You text me later. When I think of some names, I'll shoot you a name like the last name or something. Because again, we're on the pod. I'm not gonna start throwing random ass people's last names out on there.
Yeah, fucking yeah. I don't know, man. If anyone out there is tuning in, if you know who we're talking about, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Call
That's
to
a real shot.
action.
Giving you very little detail, very little detail. But if you can figure out who we're talking about, either of the two women unnamed, I'm willing to throw in surprises. All right.
Hey, here, better yet, if you are tuning in and you yourself have worked at Michael's with perhaps myself or George,
Oh yeah.
comment on YouTube.
You're in for a special treat. I swear.
Yeah,
You got proof
yeah,
you either of us.
two free paintings, one from George, one from me. Shipping and handling, shipping and handling included. Okay. No. Holy shit. Oh damn, man. It's I'm happy we got to finally do this. I apologize. It's because it's fucking long overdue.
Yeah, man. No worries. No apologies needed. This is fun, This has been good. It was nice to catch up. Nice to
it's good to reconnect.
Just any excuse I get to ramble about art, I could just keep going. I'll probably bore people, or they'll at a certain point they'll have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's all right. That's all right. For everybody that tuned in that enjoyed it, yeah, man. You learned anything? Cool. If you didn't, cool too.
It just, I don't know. It's like weird because these moments are sometimes bittersweet because it's like, oh man, fuck, I'm now that we've done it, I'm glad we got to reconnect and this and that, and then it's like, man, it sucks that sometimes it only happens on this platform, let's say, or
Sure.
or some other maybe rare occasion where we run into each other. It's like, but I guess that's just how life is, right? And you just take whatever opportunity you got.
But the way I see it is there are, if there are people who are friends in my life, and if you're a friend in my life, which I consider you to be one of these folks, G.
Likewise, I appreciate
I could talk to you every day. I could not talk to you in 5 years. But when we get to talking, it's gonna be like I saw you yesterday. You know what I mean? Like you're still the homie. We're still right there. And it's just to me, it's and I got those people. I got people who I don't get to see a lot and I don't get to talk to a lot. But you know what? They're still the homie. And we when we get up, and it's good. And we can enjoy that time, and life shit happens, it is what it is, but
yeah,
we're here enjoying it.
Absolutely. Well said. And yeah, I guess to bring it home here, anyone that's tuning in, you are yourself an aspiring artist, and hopefully, everything that we discussed may apply to you in whatever creative endeavors, or maybe just other things, maybe just other battles in life. I because I do believe when you can break whatever the practice is, whatever the thing is, when you break it down to its basics, you can still apply it to your own, kind of like what we were just talking about with the art. Actually, I wanted to bring up because you're talking about, you just got to show up. If you just show up, that's when things start happening. You just have to fucking show up, whether you show up at the desk, and just start fucking scribbling, whatever, just to get the juices flowing. Eventually the muse will come to you. And, I do believe that, that applies to virtually, almost virtually everything. And I've learned that talking to other artists, just simply following other artists. I even got into this book by this writer named Stephen Pressfield. He wrote this book called The War of Art, and it's all about what we just talked, what I just said here in terms of, sometimes when you have that creative block, lacking motivation, inspiration, sometimes you just gotta like go to your workspace, maybe just sit there for a moment and just kind of take it in, and eventually the ball will start rolling, and then it'll start going in the direction you want it. So hopefully, the listeners, viewers, hopefully, that will resonate with you and help you, propel you to, what you want to do. And any other things you want to add in there, George?
I mean, that was very well said, and I completely agree. And I hope everybody listening was able to take something away, from this fun conversation. And like for real, like I'm an open book. So like if people are out there and they're like, man, I don't understand that, or what did he mean? No, message me. It
Yeah,
might take me a
absolutely.
couple days to respond, but it might take me an hour to respond. But I'll respond and we can have a conversation. That's cool. I don't have to know who you are. It's fine if I don't. If you're trying to do something, trying to make things, and like you're just trying to be a creative person in whatever way that is, like I'm all for it. Do it, explore, figure it out. And
Mhm.
let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you can make it better for you, you know? And yeah, that's it, man. Like you were saying, man, like you even put it up the other day, that Chuck Close quote. I love that Chuck Close quote. You know,
Mm,
inspiration is for real ones get up and get to work, or
yeah,
some paraphrase, but like that's the truth, man.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I can be inspired all day long, but if I don't get to the spot that I need to be in, if I don't get to the studio, I ain't gonna do it. You
Hmm.
know, when people when people are in AA or whatever that they struggle with alcohol, they tell them, well, don't go to a bar because bars filled with alcohol. You're
Yeah.
just gonna drink, right? So what I do is I put myself in the place that is gonna be. I go to the studio because the studio is filled with art supplies and filled with art. So
Hmm.
that's where I be, because where else are you gonna make art? But the place is filled with the stuff you need.
Hmm.
And even a little niche in your corner that you got this little tiny spot, but
Hmm.
that's your spot. Let it be the spot.
Yep.
When you do nothing else there but make art, just make it. And when you go there, that's what you're about. You're about art. You're not about something else there. You're about you're about your thing. Whether
Hmm.
it's music, dance, painting, drawing, photography, digital art, whatever. Do it. Make
Absolutely.
your
Yeah, if you can control your surroundings, that's funny you said that because I actually use that, especially when talking about like weight loss and trying to become, more physically active and working on your nutrition and whatnot. I always like, you got to control your environment, especially if you're trying, you don't want to be tempted with shit food. Like if you're gonna have shitty food around you, you're gonna want to eat that shitty food. And again, right, these basic core uh I don't even know, like not rules, but these core things, like if you, again, you can apply them to all different practices. So same thing applies. Like you want to create something, but you're lacking some sort of creativity, make sure you're in a space that will, push you in that direction. And it's true, inspiration, motivation, that stuff is finite. Sometimes you
Yep.
just gotta get in there and just fucking, you know just bury yourself and submerge yourself in that particular environment, and then surely enough, surely you'll get working. So
That's right. That's right.
you know,
It's not all good. It's not all gonna be good,
no.
but you're gonna learn something. You're gonna take something away. And remember, it's about that 3-inch spot that is good. Because that's all that matters, man. If you got that little spot that's good, you won.
Find
You
that
won.
little sweet spot,
Whole thing
baby.
is good. If the whole thing is, that's even better. But you got that little spot. You got that one little spot you love. And it's good. Then you fucking won. You learn something.
Fuck yeah. Damn. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen in non-binary, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoyed listening to me and my guest here, George, talk about art and life. If you want to continue to follow George on social media, you can find him on Instagram at Chiavelli G. That's CHIAVELLIG. It's all going to be in the show description, all right? But you can find him on Instagram. You can find him on Facebook. Follow him. Check out his work. Join in on his journey. And what else? Oh, I know. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay aware. And you know what? Create something. And we will see you guys on the next one. Peace out, everyone.